political climate that we're in, that there's such an attack on women, and I actually believe that this is actually quite a dangerous time for women, because I think the younger generations or whoever actually think we've got it all, and we haven't, and actually what we need to be doing is holding on to what other women have fought for over the years.
What I take away from the NAW is a view into parts of the world that I'm not involved in, so that within my job there are certain tasks that I have to do and certain things I need to understand well. But coming to meetings like this, I understand and learn about a whole variety of areas that I'm not very knowledgeable about, and I get a depth of knowledge that would be quite impossible in other ways.
And I came here, didn't know what to expect, and I think I've only missed 2 years since then, because it's a wonderful weekend for socialising, which is very important for women. It's a wonderful weekend to meet all my sisters, but it's a great weekend for finding out what my politics are.
So I think it's more prevalent that actually the NAW exists today than say it did in '52 when it first started.
The contribution of some of the women here means that I have a very good understanding that is delivered in a sisterly way, and so I can take back greater knowledge and greater empathy with other areas of work.
The National Assembly of Women is not a massive organisation, but it has so many varied women involved in it from different walks of life, different experiences. So when you do come together, as we will be doing this weekend for our annual general meeting, you can learn about the activities that other women have been involved in, the international work. We are part of the Women's International Democratic Federation, so that's a worldwide federation of women's organisations.
In 1952, when the NAW was formed, and there was an NAW group in Moss Side in Manchester where I lived then. They took a coach trip out into the country of children from the streets around where I lived for a full day out, and then I can recall having a Christmas party in the Salvation Army Hall, which was just down the road, and that kind of activity continued. And I can remember my mother getting involved with a group of women from the NAW who were going to visit Florence Horsburgh, who was our Tory MP then, because we were writing our lessons on toilet paper at school, and they went in protest, and there was a number of things like that.
The NAW had been used in Wortley Hall for a considerable length of time. I think it's since the NAW was developed. And the sisters who came, we became, you know, good mates, if you like, with a lot of them. People like Megan, Barbara Switzer and Terry Marsden, who've been coming to Wortley Hall probably longer than I had, you know, really. And so we moved forward, and we decided, I think we got a recommendation or a request from the NAW to dedicate a room, because unfortunately, and this is how we always worked, I think, all the rooms and wings are named after men. And so what would be, people had always called the study or the garden room, we rededicated as the NAW. And we now call it the NAW Garden Room because it's got a terrific view out over the gardens. And of course Celia's memory lives in there. And so, yeah, it's just developed. And of course we, every year in this room we have the Sylvia Pankhurst Memorial Lecture, which is, I think it's in August this year, which is always a very good and well-attended event.
Some people would be critical, would say there's always a women's input, and they'll say, well, why do you separate things out? But it's true. We have a different perspective on a number of things, and it's quite important for people to see that perspective and how it can. Women see it maybe differently, and things affect them differently, and it's important that people understand that.
One of the things we do, apart from elect our executive, is we have motions on things that are really relevant to women. One of the motions this weekend, for instance, is on pensions. Well, as you can imagine, that's really important to women in the UK today who are really suffering and living in poverty, a lot of pensioners. Pensioner poverty is a huge problem. One of the motions last year was on the public cuts and how they affected women, because women could really come unstuck with all the cuts that are being made, and women's health, those sort of issues. We discuss abortion rights. We've had speakers from abortion rights. We've had speakers from all over the world, really. There's always an international speaker who attends, and that's absolutely fantastic.
It's a good experience for people that come from different countries to exchange views. It's not surprising that you find out that what's going on in our countries is practically the same.
Because, you know, we realise it's not just about us in the UK, that it's about women all over the world who are having serious problems and trying to make their mark.
The assault, let's say, the attack against the working people and especially women is common. And you find out that who pays for it are women and working women and working men of low classes, of what we call popular strata and the working class.
This is part of the old left women's network that was formed just after the Second World War. We recognised that there was huge inequality in the world, that women were bearing the brunt of all the problems and getting very little of the positive action. We came together, we decided we'd had enough. You know, we had a different agenda from that being posed by men and the male hierarchy that runs the world. And it's still as relevant today as it was then.
I remain inspired. That's the most important thing. Inspired to continue to fight for women to achieve their aspiration. But also, what I take away is that solidarity, that sisterhood, and that sense of empowerment that, you know, no campaign, no issue is insurmountable.
I take away a feeling of, you know, we can get there, I'm positive, we can make progress. And we pass these things on to our daughters, our sons, our granddaughters and our grandsons, and I certainly do.
Wortley was bought in the 1950s as a derelict building by the local trade union movement and supported by national trade unions and refurbished. And now it's the unique selling point is the worker's stately home. Where else could you, as a worker, come to a place like this and enjoy the sort of beauty of the building and of the grounds? And over the years, I've come, my family, my children have come here, and they regard it as their place in the country. And so Wortley, I think, is very special to National Assembly of Women members because many of us come together here. We're given the hospitality of Wortley Hall. Many of us are members of Wortley and own shares in Wortley. And so there's that unique connection between the National Assembly of Women and Wortley Hall. And it's their anniversary this year, 60th anniversary, and the National Assembly of Women's 60th anniversary in 2012. So we are bound together by those things as well as our love of this area.
The strengths of the NAW are in a different way, perhaps, from other organisations. So there is a depth and a level of thinking and contribution from members that is quite different from other organisations, so that attending a meeting like today's AGM, for instance, gives you a perspective which is so valuable, so interesting, opens up doors to areas that you're not involved in yourself, but gives you that wider view.
No mountain is too high to climb. I just think to have such support and such sisterhood, to be so principled about some of the big issues in the world, I think it's so important.
This is my memories for Terry. Terry was my mentor, one could say. She was to me everything that you'd want your mum to be. And as a political mentor, you couldn't ask for any more. She just was the world.
Today, at our meeting, we're all wearing white roses, just as a symbol of remembrance, really. But we all remember in different ways. It's nice.
I would like to see a lot more young women involved in NAW. I think the NAW has an excellent agenda.
I would say to young people today, if you value what you want from life, then you need to be together and make sure it's not destroyed by people who have a different agenda or have a different ambition for themselves. And you can only do that if you understand the issues and you're prepared to discuss the issues and become involved.